In Durban, South Africa, police, helicopters and patrolling drones were out in force on Monday as about 300 anti-migrant protesters marched on a gathering of leaders from the Southern African regional bloc SADC, demanding that they take their countrymen back with them when they left.
Our memorandum is asking these governments to fetch their people. They are busy complaining about xenophobia. If we had xenophobia, they wouldn't be here.
Well, the threat comes off the back of months of often xenophobic unrest and protests in South Africa, which saw around 176,000 foreigners from elsewhere on the continent, including Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, flee back home. At least 4 people were killed. South Africa is currently the chair of the SADC bloc and called for a continent-wide conference over the sensitive issue of migration. Our Eunice Masson is in South Africa and joins us now to help us break it all down. Eunice, so first of all, those protests, did they reflect any tensions between SADC members gathered in Durban on Monday for those talks?
Well, if there were a good evening, Georgia, and to the viewers, of course, if there were any tensions between member states, it definitely didn't show in the feedback, the public feedback by the heads of state. We understand that today's proceedings were also delayed about for 2 hours, but that was due to the movement of the dignitaries of heads of state, which was quite an operation in the roads in Durban. The security was also tightened following a possible security breach at the summit. 2 Congolese and 1 Zimbabwean was arrested when they presented false information when they wanted to enter the summit. But in terms of the protests, it happened within, security was tightened at the summit. The protests took place as the summit was underway. So it happened at the same time, but there was no security breaches from the protests and at the conference.
So with behind the doors themselves, the conversations, did they get very far with the intention from South Africa to tackle immigration with leaders from elsewhere on the continent?
The most anticipated topic, migration, was not necessarily directly discussed in the public domain. We understand that migration wasn't necessarily a topic on the agenda. It wasn't listed. We understand that the agenda is put or is set months ahead. And it was South Africa, in fact, that suggested or rather requested that migration be discussed. So it was discussed behind closed doors, but what was said in a public domain gave us a very narrow view of exactly how the SADC region is planning on dealing with migration. We understand that Ramaphosa on Friday during a SADC event, he said that South Africans are deeply concerned and ashamed of what has happened in recent weeks, and said that a vision of 2050 would be where people migrate between the countries out of choice and not out of desperation. He hinted very briefly in one sentence to address illegal migration is to really look at the push factors, which includes internal conflict, poverty, and governance failure. We know that our own international affairs minister, Ronald Lamola, he mentioned that they did discuss violence against migrants, also behind closed doors with council members, and that the region should strengthen its what he calls the regional integration. But again, exactly what that is or how that should be strengthened is not clear.
Eunice, just give us a reminder of why the question of migration and immigration is quite so sensitive for South Africa at this time.
When you look at the member states of the SADC member states, we sit with countries such as the DRC, Malawi, also Zimbabwe, many other states, 16 states in total. But those three specific countries I mentioned, just because we've seen a massive outwards move of immigrants in recent months due to the anti-immigration protests, and South Africa has indeed requested from these countries such as Malawi to reimburse the country for these repatriation movements. But aside from that, in recent months there has been a massive immigration push in the country by certain groups, and really it does place some diplomatic pressure on South Africa when meeting with these countries, and that's why migration is a key issue. But beyond that, migration, for many people, it's not a matter of choice. It really is a matter of, like what Ramaphosa said, it is desperation, because we have internal conflict in many countries in South Africa, not just conflict, but also poverty, health challenges. So South Africa really acts as a beacon of hope, and people come to South Africa hoping to build financial success.
Eunice Masson, thank you so much for breaking that all down for us as leaders from across Southern Africa meet in Durban for the SADC bloc summit.